What's cracking, everybody? XehrFelrose here, bringing you some Pokemon Go Battle League content. In today's video, we're taking a look at the Halloween Cup in Pokemon Go Battle League, and it's what you expect. Carbink's available, and it's the top dog in the meta, clearing the entire rest of the rankings by over 5 points. This thing is going to be a meta shifter, and we have to expect it to either be everywhere, or you have to expect everybody else to think it's going to be everywhere, and everybody's going to be countering it. So I'm going to cover 3 facets of this whole meta. It's going to be what you want to use with Carbink. We're going to talk about a couple of teams that you want to use to beat the Carbink, and then you want to use, I got a team at the end that's going to be, what are we going to use to beat the things that beat Carbink? So real quick though, let's go through the meta itself. I like Carbink a lot. I think Golbat is also going to shine very brightly in this meta, having a very much so uncontested energy pool of poison and ghost type damage. It's very, very difficult to just deal with a Golbat. We're doing a Discord tournament, and we're doing Halloween Cup as the tournament theme, and Golbat is just raking on everybody's teams who has one. So I can pretty confidently say though that in GBL it's still going to have the same effect. You know, being poison, it resists other poison type damage, which a lot of the meta does, and it's very spammy with that poison fang. So I love Golbat in this meta. It obviously doesn't really appreciate being locked on against a Carbink, but that's a decision that you kind of have to make if you see a lot of Carbinks. But as far as things that beat the Carbink, you know, we have Greninja, and we have one of my personal favorites, Shadow Scizor. Shadow Scizor with Bullet Punch and Iron Head just mow right through it. And if you want to use Trailblaze on your Scizor, I don't mind that at all. Makes a lot of sense to me as more of like a counter swap and then come out with ramped up damage. But just keep in mind that it doesn't have that ability to one-shot a Carbink, so in the zeros you would actually lose the matchup. But Nidoqueen is going to be another dominant force in this meta when people are trying to play teams against Carbink, because it is literally the hardest Carbink counter in this entire cup. It is the only thing that absolutely just dominates and decimates a Carbink to the point where it can't really fight back either way. Now, one thing that I will say though to you all, and I bring it up later in one of the teams that we've got coming up, but I'll say it now because why not? You're here for information. If you get a Tackle Carbink, and you are 1 tackle ahead of a non-Shadow Nidoqueen, so right, you have a 1 tackle advantage, maybe you save swap it, for example, you can flip that matchup even if the Nidoqueen goes straight Earth Power. Little known fact, I think that that's very interesting, at least in the 1s you can. I don't know about the 2s, the 3, or not the 3, the 2s, and I definitely know that Nidoqueen destroys it in the 0s, but still interesting nonetheless. Some other counters that you'll expect to see out there to the Carbink, you're going to see both Azumarill and Tapu Fini. You're going to see both flavors of Azumarill. Venusaur being just about the only other grass type other than Trevenant in this cup that really kind of matters. Quillfish is listed as a loss to, or as a win against Carbink. Carbink loses to it. But Quillfish is one of those spicier things that, I mean, people are just going to run Toxapex, let's be honest. And Toxapex is listed here, I believe. Yeah, it's listed up somewhere. I just lost it. I had it. I lost it. Toxapex wins. Trust me, Toxapex wins. Jellicent and Tapu Fini are both listed as losses against Carbink, but you do beat it in the 2s. So those are some Carbink trivia facts for the day. So let's take a look at some other Pokemon that I think are going to be interesting here. I really, really like Tapu Fini. Charjabug, I think, is going to be an extremely interesting pick. If you can keep it off of the Carbinks, I think it's going to be really interesting, especially if you're not seeing as many Nidoqueen as you may have expected. Mawile, I think, is going to be a really strong pick here. Frostlass is always good in every meta it's in. You just give it shields, and it just completely destroys everything. And then I still think Azumarill is going to be interesting. I'm a lot less so in on Alolan Eradicate nowadays, but I do really like, whereas I'm trying to find it. As much as I love Skeledirge, I'm not sure about it yet in this meta. I have to play test it a bit. I can't find it on the rankings here, but Pawniard, XL Pawniard, if you caught a good one at GoFest, I think it's going to be super, super solid having access to Fury Cutter. Night Slash, Iron Head has a good coverage set of moves on the meta. It's an XL. Or you can build a Hatch IV, which is a lot less costly, but I have seen some matchup differences against the rank 1 versus, you know, some less so. So just take that in mind. But let's get into the first team here. We got it on the screen already. Talking about Carbink, Greninja, and Toxapex. This team gets core broken by only Venusaur. Venusaur is the only Pokemon in this whole meta that I think core breaks this team to a T. But really, I mean, Toxapex can win against Greninja, I guess. I mean, yeah, that technically checks out. But either way, you're going to have a lot of coverage here. A lot of the things that Carbink loses to gets completely just destroyed by Greninja and other water types. And the things that the water types lose to, aside, obviously, from Venusaur, and just Carbink just mows through a lot of things. Forretress, nobody's playing Forretress, let's be honest, guys. Everything on this team has play against the entire meta except Forretress and Toxapex. Mouth is going faster than my brain is going, goodness. Everything else you have an answer to in this meta in some way, shape, or form. And let's always remember, too, that there's that whole thing context, something that I teach my students in my coaching, which is conveniently down here on the screen. If you're interested in getting PvP coaching by myself, I do it on Metafy, and I also have exclusive teams and meta guides and tricks and tips, etc. in my Patreon and YouTube member Discord, which is now one and the same. I got it. So if you join the YouTube members, you can get in there, too. Yeah, the team is like extremely solid. I think that Carbink is either going to be super hard countered everywhere, or people are going to try to counter it one way or the other. It's very risky to run Carbink, in my opinion. But if you have one and you want to run it, this is a very solid team to do so. So let's take a look at the next team up here. We're going to start looking into the teams that beat Carbink now. So we're looking at Pawniard in the lead. Like I said, very useful, Pokemon with a good moveset. And it pairs very, very well with Azumarill and Tapu Fini because they take away that, they cover that fighting and fire resist, or they resist the fire and fighting damage that Pawniard is fairly weak to. And bugs, yeah, I mean, I'm not so sure I'm worried about bugs as much, but Pawniard doesn't really beat necessarily Nidoqueen, even though you're technically resisting those poison jabs. But the Earth Power, I think, is where Nidoqueen gets that win. So if you can correctly shield an Earth Power, I'm pretty sure that Pawniard can take a win in that situation. And Charge of Bug is another extremely, it's a bit of a core breaker here, but it's really going to depend. I expect a lot of people to go directly to things like Nidoqueen and Azumarill and Greninja and things like that. So I feel like this team could be very strong. You are a bit weak-ish to Greninja. Fury Cutter on Pawniard makes that a much more doable matchup, but you do technically lose it in the ones. I haven't looked into the rest of the movesets yet, but if you run X-Scissor on your Pawniard, you have a better time there. But Greninja will outspam you, as it outspams literally everything. So that'll be a team effort, but aside from that, I think if you wanted to, you could just play double Water Fairy and then have a safer swap into Greninja instead of playing Jellicent. Or, you could do something else entirely. This is your call. These are just team ideas. They're not necessarily going to be, have to do it this way kind of team. If something ain't working for you, just change it a little bit. I have ideas, but that doesn't mean that every single one of them is going to hit perfectly. Some of them do, some of them don't. So, definitely lots of good coverage on this meta. Like we said, Charge a Bug is going to be a bit of a core breaker here. And then really after that, you've got play against just about everything else. And Pawniard, from my experience, the last 2 times we've had Halloween Cup, actually wins a ton of leads and has a ton of play, puts a lot of pressure, and good lord, if it gets a Night Slash boost, Lord help you. Those Fury Cutters are going to rip you in half, dude. So let's take a look at the next team here. Another team that is not so much specifically to beat Carbink all the way round, but it's a Dark Poison core, as I am very much a lover of Dark Poison cores. And we've got double Shadow Poison in the back with a Greninja in the lead. So not a bit more of a glassy team. This is not the bulkiest team. You could certainly replace something like Nidoqueen with Toxapex, or if you want to go full balls to the wall, Anti-Carbink, you could pop out your Golbat for Toxapex or something like that. But I digress. I like this team. It's got a good variety of ways to deal damage, and those Poison Fangs in the back, dude. Shadow Poison Fang should not be underestimated. In Tool Shield scenarios, they can just rip through so many things. It's insane. So don't sleep on it. And we all know Nidoqueen is going to be everywhere. It's going to be one of those things. So I don't mind if you wanted to change the Nidoqueen out, for example, for something that maybe does a little bit better into the Nidoqueen if you see a lot of them. So this is going to be a lot of what are you seeing in the meta at the moment? This is going to be like a general coverage sort of thing. But, this team really doesn't have a whole lot of problems. Like Umbreon and Zweilous are just about neutral into the backline completely. And then, yeah, obviously Zweilous destroys Greninja. But it doesn't really do as consistently against Nidoqueen and Golbat because of the Poison Fang. and the defense dropping. So that's a team that I think is going to be really strong with Greninja. Again, another one of those, you know, seeing a lot of Carbink teams, you can play this team. Just one thing on the team that loses to Carbink. So not a bad line here. We're going to hit into the next game, next team here, which is a little bit more so, let's beat Carbink in the back and have something in the lead that's weak to Carbink, right? So Charjabug, I feel, is going to be a good core breaker for the things that beat Carbink. You're talking about the Azumarill and Tapu Fini. You're talking about, well, I was going to say Golbat, but Golbat doesn't actually beat it. But it's going to be able to beat Toxapex. It's going to be able to beat Greninja and Jellicent. And it's going to also be able to beat the odd Mandibuzz you see out there. Like, Charjabug is very consistent with that Volt Switch now, and I think that it has a lot of play in this meta, and it cores extremely well with Palossand, which is why it's on the screen here. You might be looking at this and thinking it's spicy, but let me tell you, Palossand ain't messing around. It has Mud Shot, it's got Shadow Ball, and it's got access to Scorching Sands, Earth Power, Sand Tomb, whichever flavor of ground type move you want. Overall, this team does very well against the overall meta, having a few core breakers here and there, but for the most part, the team can perform quite admirably. And then you can also change your moveset on your Charjabug. You could be running X-Scissor and Crunch, or you could be running Discharge, X-Scissor, Discharge, Crunch, whatever you want to do. You can change it based on the Pokemon that you're seeing more of, and you're probably not going to see a whole lot of Palossand. Now, I stuck a little Binky in here because I feel like the Charjabug Palossand core is strong, and you could really just throw whatever you want safe swap-wise in the back. Typically, though, I would probably want to go with something that does beat Nidoqueen and is able to beat opposing, you know, ground types in general, because that's where Charjabug really has a problem. It's not going to be able to stand up as well to those ground types that are in this meta. So having two things that can really battle against them, so that's why maybe Carbink's not the best call. You could put Tapu Fini in the back too if you want, or Azumarill, you know, just something that's able to combat the Carbink and the ground types like Nidoqueen in this meta. Overall, though, this team, like Trevenant and Houndstone being the only things that can really go through the whole team, hey man, sign me up. I'll probably play something like this at some point. And into the last team, we're going to have another similar-ish team here. Charjabug on the lead again, but this time this is more of a team of, this is the things that beat Carbink. So if people, which I fully expect the meta to just go straight to Anti-Carbink. We skip the Carbink phase completely and go straight to Anti-Carbink. So you're probably going to see a lot of people running things like Azumarill and Tapu Fini and Nidoqueen, and this team handles those very nicely. Toxapex and Golbat both having an extremely good amount of play into Nidoqueen and Azumarill and Tapu Fini because they're poison types. So Charjabug, like this whole team beats Azumarill and Tapu Fini, so you're going to be having a good time here. Also able to beat things like Mawile pretty consistently here with being able to hit it for neutral damage pretty much across the board, if not wear it down with those Poison Fangs. Lots of good coverage here. The whole team also beats Greninja, which is going to be good to know because there's going to be a lot of Greninja. Toxapex is popular. Golbat may or may not be too popular. Jellicent might be popular. You've got two ways to hit it with the Shadow Ball on Golbat and the electric moves on the Charjabug. You know, it beats Forretress if we care about that. And the team is able to very consistently beat just about all the things in the meta that really beat Carbink. And the core breakers here are going to be something like Sableye or Frostlass. And even then, that's really only because I think the Sims have X-Scissor Discharge. If you switch one of those moves to Crunch, you're probably going to be having a better time against those. So if you see a lot of ghost types, run Crunch, obviously. That's the answer anyway, right? So that's going to do it for my 5 teams that I'm going to enjoy looking and seeing and running the most in the Halloween Cup. Let me know in the comments what team you're looking to run in the Halloween Cup, or if you want to try one of these teams, let me know at some point, whether it's in this one or another video. Let me know how these teams may do for you. I'll be posting some content for Halloween Cup next week, and I will be doing a live stream tonight, Friday, 6 p.m. Eastern, and we'll be doing another stream tomorrow on Saturday at 1 p.m. Eastern. Both are going to be Halloween Cup because I have actually been looking forward to this Cup for a while. A lot of the Pokemon that I enjoy running are good in this Cup, so I'm going to have a lot of fun just screwing around and playing some teams and seeing what works the best so that I can deliver good team content for you guys when it comes to actual videos being made. So thank you all so much for watching. Make sure you subscribe to the channel and like the video if you enjoyed the content and want to see more. And also, you know, feel free to check out the Metafy and Patreon and YouTube member pages if that interests you, if you want to support the channel further or get the inside scoop of the brain that sits up here, because at some point I'm gonna have good ideas and they're gonna help people. So anyway, y'all, that's gonna do it for me. Thank you so much for watching. We're gonna catch you in the next one. Bye bye.